episode number 4. So in this part I actually wanted to talk about another thing which is very important when reclaiming your life, which is self-trust. You can say it's two things, self-distrust and self-trust. If we tend to be anxious about making a decision that other people will be opposing to us, two things that are coming in play, in my opinion. One is need for approval, and another thing is distrusting our ability to make a decision. Recently, I had a situation where I have been strongly triggered because a friend of mine gave me some information about somebody that I know, which made me doubt integrity of the person that I knew. The thing that hurt the most was not so much the information or the situation, but the fact that I felt doubtful about my own judgment towards the person. Because if you, for example, if you have somebody that you trust very much, and then something comes up and then you start questioning yourself, like, oh wow, did I make the wrong decision by trusting this person? Is my ability to make this decision is so flawed? Do I even have a capacity to make a decision? It is something that hurts more than anything else that you can experience when it comes to living your own life, is feeling that you don't have ability to do so. So I think developing self-trust is actually something that people that are on the path of reclaiming our own lives should really consider. There is a very good episode about trust by Teal Swan. I'm gonna put video link down below, which I would recommend for anybody who wants to learn more about it, so that I don't need to talk about it. Anyways, so self-distrust. We do really kind of learn, go with other people's opinions and flow, recommendations and things like that, and we don't really even stop to question, is it right? Does it feel right? Of course, at this point where we decided to reclaim our life, we already know that what we're living is not exactly ours. Then, the thing to strengthen is our self-trust, and reducing self-distrust is the same. I'm Libra, so I like the scales and I like the kind of analogies, like one is on one end and another is on another end. You increase self-trust and your self-distrust goes down. Your self-distrust goes up and your self-trust goes down. So it's like this. The more you trust yourself, the less you have of a self-distrust. But of course, when you don't really make your own decisions, or you don't really know how to make your own decisions, or you're scared to make your own decisions, you have a quite high level of self-distrust, so you don't even focus on self-trust that much. But I think what works better is building self-trust rather than focusing on not to self-distrust. But self-distrust could be indication that we're lacking of self-trust. Being loyal to ourselves is something that we don't do. Being loyal to ourselves is something that we haven't done for a long time. Betraying ourselves for the sake of approval is something that we've been doing for a very long time. So no wonder that we don't have a self-trust. Developing self-trust could be quite complicated if our inner compass is a little bit messed up. They say if you do a right thing, what is right for you is going to feel right. But many of us, we have this intermixed feeling which makes something feel wrong, and the feeling of wrong is created by the fact that what we choose to do is not going to be approved by other people, for example. I don't know why I'm using this example so much. We want to quit our job and go to Australia. And it's something that we really want. And we have savings, and we can get the visa, or we have a profession, or we know somebody there. But that decision doesn't really feel very right, because there is another dimension within us which screams that this is going to get disapproved by other people. And so part of us thinks that this decision is right, but there is another part that thinks that this decision is wrong. Lots of us have a part who makes sure that we will be approved as a controller within our personality. So the part who is used to having approval of others or not running into any conflicts with others is likely to be running show for a very long time, ignoring all the other aspects within us that want different things. So if we want to develop self-trust, we have to start looking after those other aspects within us that we have been betraying all of this time. So we have been only basically living our life in order to get other people's approval, connection, good relations with, and we have been ignoring all of these other parts within us who needs other things and who we override in order to get those things that we used to getting from other people and we scared of losing. Because we are betraying those parts so consistently, there is no strong base within us as individuals that could support us in the decisions where our immediate environment are likely to reject. So the first focus should be trying to develop relationship with the parts within us or the aspects within us that we have been betraying for such a long time. How to do that? First of all is to even communicate to ourselves or those parts within us that we do care about interests of those other parts within us. So if we have a part who is really looking after our, let's say, physical security, but we have an adventurous part which is always trying to break out and do something, and if we've been suppressing it on all of our life, first thing to do is to start acknowledging that this part exists within us and it is important. So it is not necessarily possible to straight away start and go ahead and do these adventurous things that we want to do. But to start seeing that we have that part inside of us and that part is important step. We can't start without that. Because, like even for any addiction to be healed, first step is to admit that you have an addiction. So as we start seeing that we have these other parts within us that have different needs than the needs that we have been addressing by the life that we have been living. Okay, dictionary. I'm using my right hand as what we're doing, and let's say these are aspects of ours whose needs we have been addressing, and my left hand as part of us and our personality and the aspects of us that we have been suppressing. So after we started to see that we have these parts within us, let's say one part, let's use this security-oriented part and adventure-oriented part. We have been living this, but we have been suppressing this. Once we start seeing it and we start paying attention to that part, this part starts to become stronger. It starts to become stronger because we are paying attention to it. By giving focus for something, we giving more energy to that thing and we making it stronger. So us paying attention to that part makes that part stronger. So what's going to start, so first of all, with just pure acknowledgement that that part of us exists, this part is going to start to become stronger. And in our mind, importance of this part is going to start increase. And at some point, if you can see this was our starting point, that's what was our starting point, and as the part became stronger, then, for example, if we need to make a decision, at some point it's going to become, okay, not only this part needs to be considered, this part also needs to be considered. It becomes equally important. Once this importance starts to become rooted within us, we can start making decisions about other aspects within us that are important to us. And once we start paying attention to that part, the distrust from the aspect of ourselves that we've been having reduces, because trust in the fact on our ability to see that need, to see that aspect within us increases. So that part starts to feel to be seen and understood and considered, and trust by that part towards us about our ability to make decisions that will consider this part too increases. So that's only one aspect that I was talking about. This is just one split that we may possibly have. But once we start seeing other parts that we have within us that we have been neglecting and not seeing and disowning, we start to actually let them grow and become stronger. It's like watering plants. You know, you plant a seed, or there is a seed, there are small plants, they already exist. And by our attention and by us paying attention to it, we put water on it, we put fertilizer on it, and it grows. And at some point it becomes strong enough and equal to any other parts. Of course, sometimes there is a problem because there are conflicting parts within us, and almost always the parts that we suppress somehow are in a conflicts with the parts that we express. So some of the aspects we express because they create us no problems, but other aspects we suppress because we think it will create us problem. So there is a conversation that needs to happen. You can say mental conversation with yourself. Almost kind of introduce yourself to yourself, or introduce one side of you to other side of you, and somehow find alignment, dialogue, conversation between them, because otherwise you have this kind of like one side of you wanting to do that and another side wanting to do that, one side of you thinking that this is going to be good for you, but another side feeling that something is missing. So this kind of like a connection between different aspects of yourself has to start happening. So yeah, that's basically the starting point. I believe that the process of kind of like reclaiming yourself and gaining your own trust is not necessarily something that is very artificial. It's quite organic. Once you start paying attention to things tend to grow. They say that body, the psyche, the nature is to heal. They say that we want to heal, like our bodies wants to heal, our psyche wants to heal. This is something that is kind of automatic. We don't really need to do it. If we cut ourselves, the wound, we don't really need to artificially do something. Yes, okay, we need to disinfect, but the wound is going to heal itself because the nature of the body of ourselves is to heal itself. So that's why, let's say emotionally, from the psychological side, once we started doing something like that, the rest of the process evolves quite naturally and quite organically, as long as we start paying attention and investing some energy in seeing that part of us that created distrust, or the reason why we have so much distrust within ourselves. So that's my own experience, and that's my own tip on how to do that. Nobody's perfect. I'm not. Probably most of the people can't do that perfectly yet, but practice makes it perfect, even though perfection is something that you can strive for, but you can never achieve, I believe. We become pros as we're doing something. So as we do something, and as we do this, we will become more professional, more pros into reclaiming the parts of ourselves that we have been neglecting and not seeing. And the reason, and therefore we will be addressing the reason for self-distrust, and we'll be creating and promoting self-trust. So yes, pay attention to the parts within yourself that are quiet and in pain and maybe been screaming for some time. And by doing that, your trust in yourself will increase automatically, because you will send a message to yourself that you care about yourself and you care about those aspects of you, and eventually you'll be able to achieve harmony. Maybe not for all the time, but much better harmony within yourself than it is at the moment. Thank you for watching. See you next time. If I'll have something to add, I'll do it another time.